with such motivation, now we can read the Heart Sutra. So it should appear on the screen at some point, I guess. Okay.
Yes, just a second.
No worry. No.
I'm sorry, I have no rights to do this. The person does not reply.
Настя, ты тогда просто сама читай.
Я дал права, ты можешь... все.
Okay.
Настя, ты тогда просто сама читай.
Почему он какой-то странный? Почему-то... Я дал права, ты можешь... все.
Okay.
Настя, ты тогда просто сама читай.
Почему он какой-то странный?
Сутра сердца совершенства мудрости. Поклоняюсь трем благородным, редким и высшим. Так я слышал однажды. Бхагаван пребывал в Раджагрихе на горе Коршуна с великой общиной монахов и великой общиной бодхисаттв. В то время Бхагаван погрузился в сосредоточение, исследующее перечень дхармы, минуемую видимость глубины, и в то же самое время бодхисаттва Махасаттва Аривалкитешвара, рассматривая практику глубинной пражня парамиты, узрел, что 5 скандх пусты от самобытия. Тогда достопочтенный Шарипутра, побуждаемый силой Будды, обратился к бодхисаттве Махасаттве Аривалкитешваре с таким вопросом. Если какой-нибудь сын благородной семьи хочет приступить к практике глубокой пражни парамиты, как ему следует выполнять ее? На это бодхисаттва Махасаттва Аривалкитешвара так ответил достопочтенному Шарадватипутре. Шарипутра, те благородные сыновья или благородные дочери, что желают приступить к практике глубокой пражни парамиты, должны ясно и безупречно видеть и эти 5 скандх пустыми от самобытия. Форма есть пустота, пустота есть форма. Нет пустоты помимо формы и нет формы помимо пустоты. Также пустые и ощущения, развлечения, формирующие факторы и сознание. Так, Шарипутра, и все дхармы есть пустота, не имеют отличительных признаков, не возникают и не исчезают, не загрязнены, не чисты, не ущербны, не совершенны. Поэтому, Шарипутра, в пустоте нет формы, нет ощущений, нет развлечения, нет формирующих факторов, нет сознания, нет глаза, нет уха, нет носа, нет языка, нет тела, нет ума, нет формы, нет звука, нет запаха, нет вкуса, нет осязаемого, нет дхарм, нет сознания от зрительного до умственного, нет неведения, нет прекращения неведения и далее, вплоть до того, что нет старости и смерти, нет прекращения старости и смерти. Также нет страдания, источника, пресечения, пути, нет высшей мудрости, нет достижения и нет даже недостижения. Поэтому, Шарипутра, поскольку бодхисаттв нет достижения, они опираются на пражни парамиту и пребывают в ней. Поскольку в их сознании нет препятствий, нет и страха, полностью отойдя от превратного, они тем самым достигают нирваны. Также и все Будды, пребывающие в 3 временах, ясно и всецело достигли полного, непревзойденного, наивысшего просветления, опираясь на глубокую пражни парамиту. А потому мантра пражни парамиты, мантра великого знания, несравненная мантра, мантра, равная непревзойденному, мантра, полностью успокаивающая все страдания, известна как истина, ибо она безобманна. Мантра пражни парамиты гласит «Таята ом гаты гаты парагаты парасам гаты боды сваха». Шарипутра, так бодхисаттвы Махасаттвы должны изучать глубокую пражни парамиту. Затем Бхагаван, выйдя из самадхи, похвалил Аривалкитешвару, бодхисаттву Махасаттву. Превосходно, превосходно, сын благородной семьи, так и есть, так и должно быть именно так, как показано тобой. И следует практиковать глубокую пражню парамиту, ибо тогда возрадуются даже татагаты. Когда Бхагаван изрек эти слова, возрадовались достопочтенно Шарадватипутра и бодхисаттва Махасаттва Авалокитешвара, и все собравшиеся вместе с богами, людьми, асварами, ганхарами, и все восславили слова Бхагавана. На этом заканчивается Ария Бхагавати Пражня Парамита Хридая Сутра.
Sangye anjo donjo ge jonam la jonjo modo dane gyabzu ji dangye jinzo gebe zonam ge drola benje zangye droba jo sangye anjo donjo ge jonam la jonjo modo dane gyabzu ji dangye jinzo gebe zonam ge drola benje zangye droba jo sangye Sodonzo ge jonam la jonjo modo dane gyabzu ji dangye jinzo gebe zonam ge nola benje zangye droba jo. Thank you. Okay, so now with respect with what we have covered last week we have covered the briefly, very briefly, I feel very bad. It's very brief. Okay, and the sevenfold reasoning in relation to the chariot. Okay, so we have seen the seventh position, and now that you had a week, you see, to familiarize yourself a little bit with the line of reasoning. Now we're gonna on this session today we're gonna apply all of this line of reasoning to the person, and it should be easier. You see, it should be easier. And next week we will keep extra time maybe for some more question, and also I would like to I would like 1 hour, you see, to talk about the dependent arising. Okay, dependent arising, and in this way you will have like a good like a correct introduction about the selflessness and the meaning of selflessness and how to engage selflessness. Okay, so before we move on with the topic of today, is there any questions? That would be a good time.
Good evening. I think now I will be the person that will translate some questions to you. There are some questions from the previous lessons. One is the presence of the cognizing mind a condition for existing of the objects being cognized? And if it is so, does it mean that there is a certain overmind that enables simultaneous existence of all the phenomena in the universe?
I'm sorry, I did not catch the second part of the question.
Mm-hmm. So let me repeat, sorry. Is the existence of the cognizing mind a condition for existing of all the objects being cognized? And if it's so, does it mean that there is a certain overmind, supreme mind, that makes possible the existence of all the phenomena in the universe?
Okay, so I'm gonna address this through different angles, and then maybe one of these angles will actually fit. You see the answer. So first, when we say that all phenomena are merely imputed by the mind, it does not mean that a mind has always to be there to impute the phenomena for the phenomena to exist. Okay, so when we say that all phenomena merely exist as a concept, and a mere imputation by the mind, or their mere name, this is the measure. It is a measure of existence. It means that there is no phenomena that exist beyond that, beyond being merely labeled by the mind. This is the measure of existence. In no way it means that you have to be there all the time, or there must be like some overall consciousness, you see, that apprehends everything simultaneously for the phenomena to be there. That's not the meaning. Otherwise, you see, when you go to sleep, then all the different objects in your room, they will go out of existence because you're not there to impute them. Okay, so that's not the meaning. And the meaning is when we say that all phenomena are merely labeled by mind, this is the measure of existence. it means that the only type of investigation that the phenomena is able to support, to bear, is the mere name, okay? That's the meaning of it. And it is clearly, slowly, by analyzing and reflecting, we will more and more understand the role of the mind in bringing up a phenomena to existence. Okay, the mind is not there as the mere witness, okay, of all the existent phenomena, but it has an active role in bringing the phenomena to existence. Okay, so to bring more understanding on that topic, reflect about the snake, okay, and the rope, and particularly reflect about this new currency, for example. You see, if there's a new currency, as long as there is no, you see, the common agreement, then the basis, you see, has no value. So it's the mind, you see, that imputes, the mind that will create the function, the value, you see, everything, you see, it is applied on the proper basis. And but from the side of the basis, you see, the phenomena does not exist. On the basis is just the support for an appearance to the mind, you see, for a certain type of appearance to the mind, and then the concept is applied to the basis. So this is important. Now, also, we cannot talk about a mind without object. A mind to exist needs an object. You cannot find an instant of mind without an object. Okay, so the mind is always cognizing something, and what is cognized by the mind is the condition for the mind to arise. Okay, so you cannot talk about knowledge without an object of knowledge, and you cannot talk about an object of knowledge without a knowledge, without a mind. Okay, so those two, they establish in mutual dependence. Okay, in mutual dependence. Okay, so hopefully, is it satisfactory as an answer? Did you find something that was like answering your question, your qualm? But for sure, if you talk about like some type of a mind, you see, that cognize, that is a condition, that is a condition for the existence of everything. There is no such thing. Clearly, you cannot find an object without a cognition, but this doesn't mean that for the phenomena for all phenomena to exist, they must be all cognized simultaneously by a particular over consciousness. You know, this is not there's no such thing now. So I don't know if it was satisfactory.
So we've got another question. It means that the external objects exist, but how? I see a monitor in front of me, or just a number of atoms, or is there something else? What I attribute a label to?
So in the Prasangika system, the external phenomena exist. Okay, there is not like the Chittamatra system or the Madhyamika Svatantrika Yogacarya system that do not assert external object. Okay, so phenomena externally exist, but what does that mean to exist externally in the Prasangika system? You see, for someone who has realized emptiness, the meaning of external object and the meaning of external object for us, it is quite different, for sure. Because if you look for an external object, you won't be able to find it. So external object and you see external, internal. All of these are also mere concept. You see, external exists because of there is the internal. External object because there is a consciousness. Consciousness is that which is internal. So because there is the consciousness, then there is also external object. Okay, but you see, inside, outside, all of these, they are mutually arising. So now, for you have a basis of imputation. You see, the basis of imputation are the constituents. You see, and on that basis, you see, they are the condition for a certain appearance to arise in the mind. For example, on the basis of the five aggregates are the basis for the idea of an I, of a person that appears in the mind. So you see, on the basis of the constituent, on the basis of the five aggregate, the idea of a person arises in the mind, and it is applied to the basis. Okay, it is applied, it is superimposed, it is imputed on the five aggregate. But in no way, you see, if you look for the imputed object, the person, inside its constituents, or as being one, you see, or the collection, you wouldn't be able to find it. So on the basis of the five aggregates, the concept, the concept of the person arises to the mind. It is applied to the basis and allows you to collect the whole, Because what are the five aggregate? The five aggregate, they are just a continuum of physical and mental event. You see, in a finger snap, you have many instances of mind and on matter, and nor this instant individually or collectively they can be said to be the person. But on the basis of this, you see, on the basis of this, the idea of a person arises to the mind and is applied to that basis and allows you to collect the whole. You say what it is, what is external. You mentioned atoms, but also atoms. You see, atoms is imputed on the basis. You see, is imputed on the basis. There is no undivisible particle. Okay, so if you say, you see that there's atoms, and the atom is the final division of matter, which is not even accepted by science. You see, this is from the Newtonian point of view of science, and this would be, you see, the Vaibhashika or the Sotantrika. They would say that there is undivisible particles. But everything can be divided, at the very least, it can be divided on directional parts. So even like the smallest unit of matter, you see, it can be divided by terms of sides. You see, the right side, the left side, up, down. You see, so there is no indivisible particle, and so on the basis, you see, of those parts, if you take an atom on the basis of the part, you see, the concept of atom is applied. So atom, it is a concept that arises to the mind on the basis of the parts, but the atom, you see, is the same as the person. It is merely labeled on the basis of imputation, which are the parts, but the parts are not the atom, either individually or collectively. Same for the person, same for all phenomena. So if you look for inherently existent phenomena outside, you will never find it. Inherent existence cannot exist. You see, slowly you will come to understand that existence is only possible because everything is empty. We'll see that next week more precisely. So there is no inherently existent outside world, and there is no inherently existent outside phenomena. Okay, something like that.
And another question, could you please explain the difference between Yogacara and Yogacara Svatantrika Madhyamika?
Okay, so the Yogacarya is the Chittamatrin, the Chittamatra. So the Chittamatra is the school of the Mahayana, same as the school of the Mahayana, same as the Madhyamika. But the object of negation, I mean, the way they posit reality is a bit different. So in the Chittamatra system, they posit the three nature. Okay, the three nature. There is the thoroughly established nature, the other power nature, and the imputational nature. So the other power nature is all impermanent phenomena. All impermanent phenomena are other power nature because they are under the power of causes and condition. They are said to be other power nature. Then you have the imputational nature. The imputational nature are all permanent phenomena, emptiness aside, which are superimposed on the other power nature. I say, so the other power nature is the basis on which imputational nature is applied. Okay, so all the concepts that you applied on phenomena, impermanent phenomena, are imputational nature, and there are imputational nature which are existent and imputational nature which are non-existent. For example, the concept of the self of person or the self of phenomena is a non-existent imputational nature, and it is the object of negation. And then you have the thoroughly established nature, and the thoroughly established nature is emptiness. So what is emptiness for the Chittamatra is the fact that the consciousness, you see, the apprehender, and what is apprehended by that mind, by the apprehender and apprehended, are empty of being different substantial entities. That's what it means. So it comes down to the non-assertion of the external world, because from a single imprint on the mind basis of all, deposited on the mind basis of all, simultaneously, you see, the consciousness and the object perceived by that consciousness arise simultaneously. Okay, so the object not being the cause for the perception, it cannot exist externally. So that deposit. So this is the self. That's the way they posit the selflessness of phenomena, which is an obscuration to knowledge. Okay, and the selflessness of the self of person is the conception of a self as being substantially existent. The difference with the Svatantrika is that in Chittamatra, the other power nature, the thoroughly established nature, they are truly existent. You see, they are empty of being apprehender and apprehended are empty of being different substance. There is no external world, yet they are truly existent, and there is no contradiction in their system. What does that mean to be truly existent? It means to be findable upon analysis. So this means that even though phenomena, you see, they do not exist externally, nevertheless, when you look for the illustration of the phenomena, you find, you see, something which is the illustration, like for example, the composite of its parts. Okay, the composite of its part, for example, there might be the illustration of the phenomena. So this is how Chittamatra, you see, deposit the existence. The phenomena do not exist externally, yet the thoroughly established nature and the other power nature are truly existent, findable upon analysis. Right? In the Mahayana system, the object of negation is true existence. Okay, so the Svatantrika, the Madhyamika Svatantrika Yogacarya, they would posit two selflessness of person. The core selflessness of person, two selflessness of phenomena. A coarse selflessness of phenomena and a subtle selflessness of phenomena. So the coarse selflessness of phenomena would be exactly the same as the one posited by the Chittamatra, which is the fact that the apprehender and apprehended are empty of being different substantial entities. This is the coarse selflessness of phenomena, okay? And the subtle selflessness of phenomena would be the emptiness of true existence, okay? So you see the Chittamatra, even though they said there is no external world, yet the mind is truly existent. You see, this is where they stand. You see, okay, they say, okay, there is no external world, yet the mind is truly existent. You see, otherwise nothing exists anymore. That's their their world. The Madhyamika, they say, well, wait, because even though we are agreed there is no external phenomena, yet, okay, also the mind is not truly existent. And they would posit true existence, you see, differently from the Prasangika, because the Prasangika would also say there is no true existence, but the way, even though the terminology is the same, the way to posit true existence would be very different. For the Madhyamika, the Madhyamika Svatantrika, what is true existence, you see, is, so they give the measure of true existence. It is that which exists from its own uncommon mode of existence without the force of appearing to a non-defective awareness. Okay, is it okay? Translation, is that right? No, we do it one more time. Okay, so the measure of true existence for the Svatantrika, it is a phenomena such that it would exist from its own uncommon mode of existence without the force of appearing to a non-defective awareness. If you exist in this way, you would be truly existent, and nothing exists in this way. Right? So you see the Svatantrika, they say there is an uncommon mode of subsistence, which is like, this is come down to saying there is some kind of inherent existence. Yet, that uncommon mode of existence has to appear to a non-defective awareness. Otherwise, the phenomena cannot exist. So it's like there is something coming from the side of the object and something coming from the side of the subject, and then the phenomena come into existence. Okay? So they would say, for example, that you see the sense consciousness for the Madhyamika Svatantrika, the sense consciousness in relation to true existence, they are correct. They are correct. Why? Because things appear to exist from their own side. Things appear to exist from their own side, and conventionally, it is correct. To Svatantrika, they would say that conventionally, there is existence by way of their own characteristics, conventionally, but not ultimately, because it would be truly existent. So to exist ultimately would mean that the phenomena would exist from its own characteristics, you see, from its own common mode of existence, without the force of appearance to a non-defective awareness. And then if you move, so you see there is you see the Chittamatra, they negate something, then the Svatantrika, they negate a little bit more, because they say, no, even the mind is truly existent. And then you move on to the Prasangika, and they negate, so the Svatantrika, you see, they say even the mind is not truly existent, yet conventionally it exists from its own side. Conventionally, not ultimately, conventionally. And then the Prasangika arrive and they say, no, not even conventionally, it does not exist from its own side. So this uncommon mode of subsistence, you see, that is found in the object, it is negated by the Prasangika. So for the Prasangika, it is 100% from the side of the mind. Nothing whatsoever is coming from the side of the object. So up to the Prasangika, you see, everybody has fallen into the extreme of existence because they posit some kind of something that comes from the side of the object. Because for them, for all the lower school, see, if something exists, it has to be found upon analysis. You see, they don't understand how something can exist and yet not being able to be found upon analysis. So for the other school, if you look for any phenomena, you see the pen, the clock, the computer, the person, you see the Moscow, Russia, the planet Earth, whatever. If you look for something, if you look for the phenomena, you must find something which is the illustration of the phenomena. There is something from the side of the object that make it the phenomena. For example, from the side of the pen, you see there is some kind of a penness. There is a kind of penness. And when this is recognized by the mind, then the concept of pen arises and it is applied to the basis. So that's the Svatantrika world. For the Prasangya, they say, no, all of even the penness that seems to appear from the side of the object, it is projected by the mind. From the side of the pen, there is no pen at all. So that's a bit like very short, the difference between the three, the Chittamatra, the Svatantrika, and the Prasangika. So you see, it is extremely beneficial to study the Chittamatra view, and you have to put the shoes, you see, of the Chittamatra. You have to wear the clothes of the Chittamatra, and you have to see the world at the Chittamatra. You have to understand it from inside. And then after you move on to the Svatantrika, and then you dress up as the Svatantrika, you put the shoes of the Svatantrika, and you see the world at the Svatantrika. And then finally, you see, you move on to the Prasangika. So you need to go through this different level, you see, of understanding, because actually they all, you see, it's like your mind getting subtler and subtler and subtler in understanding reality. Yeah? So there's great benefit in studying the philosophical system, great benefit. Otherwise, understanding Prasangika just like this out of the blue, it is too far out. So even now, you see, we have said that the Chittamatra, they refute external world. Seems very big, you know, to refute external world. It's something like unconceivable. It's like the Matrix, you see, basically. Same. There is no external world. And then after we move to the Prasangika, and you say, oh yeah, but the Prasangika, they accept external object. Somehow, you see, it seems that the Prasangika, and you feel more safe in the Prasangika, you see, because, but the Prasangika, they accept the external world. So it seems that the Chittamatra, they are going further than the Prasangika. See, you have this feeling now, they are going further, the Chittamatra, but actually it's the opposite. It's because we don't understand, you know, neither, especially the Prasangika, because we don't understand the Prasangika. When we hear that the Prasangika accept external world, then you feel safe. You say, oh yeah, but it's okay because there is external world. Actually, you know, it's like the person in a dream, the person dreaming. You see, there is a external world, but there is no such inherently external world. So external world is a concept that arises based on the proper basis of imputation. See, if you look for external world, you will never be able to find it. It is a concept. So, but yet the Prasangika do not refute external world. Why? Because it is commonly accepted. It would not make sense for the Prasangika to refute external world because everybody accepts external world. See, there is no need, no need. So also it has to be, you see, the Chittamatra, they present the reality from the point of view of the yogic experience. You see, they present their version, interpretation of reality from the yogic perspective. You see, so there's no duality. And the methodology is completely different because the Prasangika will present the reality starting from the point of view of conventional people, us. So this is why this is completely different. different presentation. You see the yogi, the yogic point of view, you see, non-duality, which is right from the beginning. It becomes the expression of reality. And why the Prasangika, they start to explain ultimate reality starting from the conventional perception. Anyway, so in Chandrakirti's, when there is the refutation of the Chittamatra system, in the 6th chapter of the Madhyamika, and there is this refutation of all the different theses of the Chittamatra, like the self-cognizer and the mind basis of all, and the way they posit karma, and also the non-existence of external world. And Chandrakirti say, well, good luck in going to prove to sentient beings that there is no external world. So good luck. Good luck with that. So the Prasangika would never refute what it is accepted by the world. Never refute that, because this is established by valid cognition. See? It's established by valid cognition. Yeah, that's all.
And there is also a question, what books to read about all the three philosophical schools?
What, sorry?
What books shall we read? Quel livre à lire de tous les trois écoles philosophiques?
Okay. So the philosophy school, there are four. Huh? Okay, there are four philosophy schools. Okay, so you have like I have no idea in Russian what is available. I have no idea. So in English you have 3 books that are quite good. You have the first one is Cutting Through Appearances. Okay, where you have this the presentation of the philosophical system by Gongsak Jime Wampo with a small commentary by Geshe Sopa, which was this great scholar who lived in the United States and died like a few years ago. So this is okay because it's not too long, and there is also a commentary. So it is very good to start to have an idea. Then after you can move on into the in terms of level of details. And so you see the Gongsak Jime Wampo is a text, the Tibetan text is maybe around like, I don't know, 30 pages, you see, but with commentary, and it becomes like a small book. Then I think like last month just came out, translated by Lopez, the Jangya presentation of the philosophical system, and it is published by, it just came out by Wisdom, so it is already bigger, you see, it's already more serious, bigger. And yeah, it's published by Wisdom, and it's very good. Okay, this is very good because the level of details is very decent. Okay? It's very decent. And then if you are very highly motivated, you can move on again to the third presentation of Tenet, which is called The Maps of the Profound, which is the great presentation of Tenet by Jamyang Shepa, and it's translated by Jeffrey Hopkins, and it is a book like this. It's like 1,000 pages, you see. So I use it as an encyclopedia, you see, because when I want to find some details about a particular topics, I go into this book, and it's incredible, just incredible. So you have those three possible lectures, 3 possible reference, and also you can also take a look into Meditation on Emptiness. Now we've talked about these books before, and there is also a presentation of many different things. And this book is incredible. There is anything you need to know is inside. And there is also a short presentation of the different philosophical schools. So it's very good also. But in terms of those, typically, you know, what we call the Drupta, the tenets, then you have those 3 books, Cutting Through Appearance, I think it's Snow Lion publication. Then you have, the Jangya, the Beautiful Adornment of Mount Meru, by Jangya, translated by Lopez, and this is published by Wisdom. This series, you know, of this classical Tibetan classics. Then you have the last one is the Maps of the Profound. I think it's published by Snow Lion, probably. Don't remember Snow Lion or Wisdom, one of the two. and is Genuine Shepherd, translated by Jeffrey Hopkins, and it's like 1,000 pages. Amazing work. So that should keep you busy for some time. Keep you busy for some time. Okay. So now let's go to our topic of the day. Okay. So let's try to apply the sevenfold reasoning to the person. Okay. So we have seen the seventh position with respect to the chariot. So first we have to, okay, so even so we said that it is the sevenfold reasoning. Nevertheless, there is two steps that comes before, and those are very important because it is the understanding of what has to be negated in the vision of the non-self. So the correct identification of the object of negation, followed by the establishing the pervasion. And then after you move on with the actual reasoning. So establishing the pervasion is to understand that if the phenomena exist as it appear, then it has to exist either as the same with the aggregate, same with the constituent, or different from the constituent. Okay, and so this would be the four point analysis. But if you apply it to the sevenfold reasoning, you end up with 9 points: establishing the object of negation, establishing the pervasion. Then after you have the 7 possibility, is the 7 possibility of true existence. You see, if something truly exists, necessarily it has to exist in one of those 7 ways. Okay, one of those 7 ways. So you end up with 9 points, and you have an implicit 10, which is the actual understanding that there is no true existence of the chariot, for example. The chariot does not exist truly or inherently. Okay, so we have seen that the first one is first position is there is no chariot which is other than its parts. Okay, there is no chariot which is the same as its parts. There is no chariot which is inherently possess its part. There is no chariot which inherently depend on its part. There is no chariot upon which its part are inherently dependent. There is no chariot which is the mere collection of its part, and there is no chariot which is the shape of its part. Okay, so in the same way, this is applied to the person. Okay, so you will try to have those 9 points and those 9 point analysis applied to the person. Okay, so in terms of the we have seen, you see, so those reasonings, it is based from the sutra. It is when the Buddha explained the view of the transitory collection. He presented the 20 view of the transitory collection. Okay, why we say 20 view of the transitory collection? Because there are like 4 positions of the self in relation to the 5 aggregate. 4 positions for each of the 5 aggregate make it 20 position. For example, one is that the form aggregate is the self. Okay, so this is the one applied with the form, and then after you have to apply them to the feeling, discrimination, compositional factor, and consciousness, and you end up with 20. Okay, so the first one is the form, is the self. The second one is the self. Okay, possess the form. The third one is the self exists in the form, and the fourth one is the self, the form exists in the self. You see, so you have those 4 positions. You replaced form by the other aggregate, and you end up with the 20 view of the transitory collection. And because there are 4, you see, those are the 4 points, the first 4 analyses. Okay, that when they were presented initially. So the one is that the person is not the aggregate is not the person. Okay, the person is not the basis of the aggregate, and the aggregate are not the basis of the person. So that would be the 4 points, and the 4 points. And then Nagarjuna, he added 1. He added that the person does not possess the aggregate. Okay, and then finally Chandrakirti added 2, that the person is not the collection and that the person is not the shape, and you end up with the 7-point of analysis. You see, so over times, that reasoning, gain into substance. Okay. Okay, so let's move to those 9 positions. So if we want to express those 9 positions, we have seen the 2, the essential ascertaining the object of negation, the essential ascertaining the pervasion. Then after you have the essential realizing that the person is not the same as his basis of imputation. Okay, so the person is not the same as the aggregate. Then you have the realization that the person is not different from the basis of imputation. Okay. Then you have the position realizing that the person is not dependent on the basis of imputation. So here you have everything is inherently dependent, you see, or naturally dependent, or truly dependent. Or you have to understand that you are in the sphere of true existence or inherent existence, where everything is naturally established, findable upon analysis, established by its own power. Okay, as everything has a natural existence. Then you have the position that the person is not dependent on his basis of imputation. Okay, we've seen. Then the position that the person is not the support on which its parts are dependent. And then you have the position understanding that the person does not possess its basis of imputation, i.e. its part, okay, or the aggregates. And then the person is not the mere collection of the part, which is the mere collection of the basis of imputation. And finally, the understanding of the realization that the phenomena, the person, phenomena imputed, is not the shape of the basis of imputation. So in the Prasangika system, what we call the parts or the constituent, okay, or the aggregates, those are the basis of imputation for the phenomena. See, they're the basis of imputation. The basis on which the phenomena is applied. Yeah, it is applied. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so we have the first one, the essential, we call it essential, ascertaining that the object of negation, since we have pretty much established already what is the meaning of inherent existence. Okay, so it is an existence which is established by its own power. So you have to identify, you have to find, to reach the identification of a self which is established by way of its own nature. Okay, it's a sense of a self that do not depend on anything to exist, that is self-established. So as we said in the past, that we have, and you probably have trained in this a little bit now, when you are afraid of something, you see, when you are afraid or when you are emotionally involved into a situation, there is a sense of self that is self-powered, that exists by way of its own right, by way of its own power, by way of its own nature. So that's the object of negation. That's ignorance working there, okay? So you have to identify this sense of self, and you have to crystallize this identification. You need really to have a clear appearance of this self, which is the phenomena conceived by ignorance. So another way to understand inherent existence, you can start also. You have to work, you see, from two different sides. One is to understand the mode of appearance. You understand inherent existence through understanding its appearance. This is what we've been doing so far. And the other way is to understand inherent existence by understanding what is the opposite of that. You see? So you start to also cultivate an intellectual understanding of what it means by being imputedly existent, what it means by being nominally existent. You see, to exist as a mere concept, to exist by the power of the mind. And in this way, you can, by developing, this understanding of the meaning of being imputedly existent, you will also understand what is the direct opposite of that, which is to exist by way of your own power. Okay, so when you try to understand inherent existence, you can work in these two ways. You can work from the side of the appearance itself of inherent existence, or it present to the mind, or the mind innately, spontaneously conceived truly existent person, and to understand how that person appears to the mind. So you understand true existence by recognizing its appearance, basically. And the other way that you also needs to do, you need to work from the end, you see, from the end, to understand what is true existence by understanding the opposite of true existence, which is imputed existence. Okay, so you reflect on the example of the rope and the snake. You reflect on the example of the new money, whatever, and then you start to get an idea, see, of existing, an idea of what does that mean, existing by the power of the mind. And then in this way, you understand what is the opposite of this, which is to have a natural existence, existence from his own side, objective existence. So this is very beneficial. Okay, so you see, you have the view guiding the meditation, and the meditation guiding the view. You have to use those two approaches. There's some benefit in doing this. Okay, so there is a quote you see by the fifth Dalai Lama that says, in this text, it's a short lamrim, it's called the Secret Words of Manjushri, and he says, sometimes the I seems to be related with the body, sometimes it seems to be related with the mind, sometimes it seems to be related with the other individual aggregate like feeling, discrimination, compositional factor. And he says, at the end of this, the arising of such a variety of appearance, we come to identify an I which exists in his own right, which exists inherently, which is from the start self-established. Okay, so and it is like undifferentiated from the body and mind. You see, it seems to be completely fused. The self, the person, seems completely fused, mingled with the body and mind. It's impossible to make the difference. You see, when you see, I have the feeling, you see, that I touch myself. You see, I apply the hand on myself, but actually, you see, I'm only contacting the part, you see, the body. See, but since the concept of I pervades, see, the idea of the I pervades all its basis of designation, and it's not even possible for us to make the distinction between the person, you see, between the person and its constituent. That seems to be completely fused, So that's the way it appears to the mind. Whatever I applied, I'm touching the self. You see, this is the self. This is the self. I touch the self. I touch the I touch Olivier, the person. Okay, but actually, if you investigate, you're only touching parts of the person. In the same way, and for you see, the relation with the self and the aggregate, it is the same as the body and its parts. This is for every phenomena. And for every phenomena, they appear in this way to our mind. The object of negation, the imputed object appeared completely fused with its constituent. We cannot distinguish between the imputed object and the basis of imputation. And therefore, the imputed object appears to be findable into the basis of imputation. That's true existence. That's the concept of true existence. When the imputed object appears to be the same thing or findable as the basis of imputation. So if I observe, you see, my body, the body, I have an idea of the concept of the body pervading all its constituents, like water and a sponge. You see, like water and a sponge. You cannot find, you see, an angle of the sponge which is not pervaded by water, or like the butter on the warm bread. You see, it goes. You see, it pervades completely. So that's how it appears to us. So here you see, I have the feeling that, oh, I touch the body, I touch the body, I touch the body. See, everywhere I touch the body. But you're never actually touching the body. You're only touching parts of the body. See, is this the body? No. Is this the body? No. Is this the body? No. They are just parts of the body. But somehow, because I touch parts of the body, and because the body is the concept which is applied to the basis, then conventionally I can say I touch the body. But if you investigate, you're never touching the body. You only touch parts of the body. So it is the same with every phenomena, and particularly with the self. See, you have to understand how the concept of self arises. For example, the idea you have of a self. Look, you see how it arises. For example, if you're sitting, based on what can you say that you are sitting? If you are lying, based on what can you say that the self is lying? Okay. Or if you are sleeping, or if you are reading, or if you are like watching TV, or if you are thinking, if you are upset, not upset, if you are happy, unhappy, based on what you can say that the self is doing this, the self is doing that, the self is experiencing this, the self is experiencing that. It's only based on the particular aggregate that serve as the illustration, that serve as the basis of imputation. You see, because the aggregates is in a certain is involved in a certain activity, or yes, surrounded by certain condition, then you say, oh, the self is doing this, you see, or the self is doing that, or the person is doing this, or the person is doing that. But actually, there is no person, it's just the aggregates. We have to slowly come clear. Okay, so you have to look for this. You see, you have to. Why do you say I meditate? Okay, I meditate. Just because, you see, there is the activity of the mind. Activity of the mind is performing something particular. But if you look into in terms of what serves as the basis for the concept I am meditating to arise in your mind, if you look, you see, in this group of phenomena, if you look for what is the I, you'll never be able to find it. For example, when you say, I am watching, I see the blue color. I see the blue. So this is how, you see, appropriation works. What do you mean by the self appropriate its aggregate? Okay. So when you say, I see the blue color, what is actually happening there is based on the immediate condition, which is the preceding imprint of a clear knowing consciousness. And you must also have empowering condition, which is the I sense power. And you must also have an observed object condition, which let's say the blue color. So when all of these conditions comes together, then an instant of visual perception apprehending blue is produced. Okay, so you see the mind, the production of that I consciousness apprehending blue is the result of causes and conditions coming together. Based on that I consciousness apprehending blue, you say, I see the blue. But if you look for an I, that experience, you see, you have the feeling that there is an I, a person, behind the consciousness, you see, behind the consciousness. But actually there is no such thing. There is just the consciousness apprehending the blue color, and that consciousness apprehending the blue color, which has arise in dependence on causes and condition, serve as the basis of imputation for the idea of the I to arise. And this is what we call the appropriation. Yeah, that's the appropriation, where the consciousness, you see, it becomes, it is made into an act of the I. It is made into the act of the person, but it is only applied conceptually. It is only applied conceptually. For example, when you say, when you try to meditate, for example, and you have like those so many thoughts coming to your head, you say, oh, I am thinking, I'm conceptualizing. See, I am conceptualizing, like if there were some kind of person producing concepts. You see, that's the way it appears to the mind. There is the person that produces concept, but there is no such person. It is just the mental consciousness, you see, with the different imprints that is produced into the entity of conceptual thought. So you have this continuity of conceptual thought that arise one after the other, and on the basis of that, the idea of there is an I thinking arises to the mind, but there is no such I. There is just the consciousness which is produced instant by instant in producing like conceptual thought. Okay, it's the type of mind, and that type of mind is also produced dependence on causes and condition. But there is no I. There is no thinker behind the thinking. There is just the thinking process. Okay. In the same way, you see, when you say, when you have the how do you say, the wind element, when the wind element becomes dominant, then the feeling of hunger arises, and you say, I am hungry. But actually, there is no such I which is hungry. There is just the feeling of hunger that arises. You see, there is just the feeling of hunger that arises, and based on that feeling, you see, it is appropriated, it is made into an agent, and you say, I am hungry. Or due to causes and condition, you experience a pleasant contact, you see, a pleasant contact, and there is the feeling of happiness arise in the mind, and based on that feeling, the concept, I am happy, arise. But there is no I. You see, there is no truly existent person which is experiencing the happy feeling. There is just the happy feeling. That's all there is. But it is on the basis of that happy feeling, a concept of I is applied. You see, the happy feeling is appropriated, and it is transformed, somehow it is made into an act of the I. It is agentified. This is what we call the agency. You see, it is agentified. There is the agency process. Anyway, I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying, but yeah. See, you have to witness this. You see, you have to observe, and you have to come to understand that the I arise in dependence on the aggregates. The aggregates are the form, feeling, discrimination, compositional factor, and consciousness. So based on those constituents, which are the body and the mind, okay, then the idea of the I, the concept of I arise. But you have to look, see, and understand that where you normally see an I, there are just the aggregate, nothing else. Exactly in the same way that on the basis of this piece of paper that we have seen last week, everybody will project the idea that it has such a value, such a utility, such a name, such a function, and will not be able to separate the concept from the basis. You see, when you look at 10,000, 1,000, 2,000 rubles, okay, it seems that the value comes from the piece of paper. You have no perception, you have no cognition that it is projected by your mind. You see, it seems that the name, the function, and the value is completely fused with is inherent, is fused with the basis. So you have to do the same reflection with respect to the self. You have to come to understand that what we have here, it is just matter and mind, continuity of matter and mind, this event, mental and physical event, this continuity of mental and physical event. And when those appears to the mind, when it appears to the mind, there is the idea of an I that arises. And in this way, you can seize the whole, okay? You can grasp, you can seize the whole, you can collect the whole thing, okay? Anyway, we move on. So the second one is to establish the pervasion. Okay, so we have seen, okay, if the, so once you have clearly identified the truly existent I, the I that exists naturally, then you have to make sure that it can only exist as the same as the aggregate or something as different from the aggregate. Okay, so if there is if the person exists, see, if very easy, if the person exists, it is the same as the body and mind, or it is different from the body and mind. It comes down to that. There cannot be any third possibility. Don't you think? Yes, no. Moment of solitude for me. Okay. Okay, so that's why you have to come to understand. Okay, so if the person exists, then you have a body and mind. So that person is the same as the body and mind, or it is different from the body and the mind. There is no third possibility. Yeah? And then after you start to apply your analysis. So the first point of analysis is to understand that the imputed phenomena is not the same as its basis of imputation. So in the same way that you have applied this line of reasoning with the child and its parts, you see the parts, you have the wheel, the basis, the axle, everything. So you see, if the child, it is the same as the basis of imputation, then since you have many parts, if the child is the same as the part, if the child is the same as the part, then because you have many parts, you have many childs. So if the person is the same, say, is the same as the aggregate, because you have 5 aggregates, you will have 5 persons. So the person cannot be naturally, you see, here we are not satisfied with being nominally the same as the aggregate, because of course the person nominally, conventionally is the same as the aggregate. Here we are trying to find a truly existent person. So if the person which is findable upon analysis, okay, never forget that, is the person which is findable upon analysis. So if the person is findable upon analysis, it has to be the same as the part or different from the part. And if the person is the same as the part, as the constituent, because you have 5 constituents, you have 5 persons, because the person is the same, is inherently one, is naturally one, objectively one, you see, with its constituent. So you have to choose that. It is not so easy, okay? Because first you need to gain really an understanding of what being inherently existent means. Yeah. The other thing, you see, is that if the person is the same as the aggregate, then there is no need to make a distinction between the person and the aggregate. Just to talk about the aggregate would be enough. Why do we bother if the person is the same as the aggregate? Why do we bother with the concept of person? The idea of aggregate would be enough, you see? the person, if the person is the same as the aggregate, the person wouldn't be something more than the aggregate. But somehow it appears to be more than the aggregate. If the person is the same as the aggregate, we will not talk about the person's aggregates, okay? About my mind upon my body, about the body of the person, about the mind of the person. We talk about the aggregates of the aggregates. You see? Yeah, that would be enough. You see, the aggregate of the aggregates. Somehow, the self of the self, the aggregates of the aggregates. But somehow, you see, the person appears to be more than the aggregate. Therefore, it cannot be the aggregate. Appears to be different, appears to be more than the aggregate. So if the person is the same as the aggregate, you wouldn't be able to differentiate from the person and the aggregate. You wouldn't be able to say my hand, for example, or my arm or my head. It would be just the arm of the arm, the head of the head, you see, because the person is the same as the aggregate. Yeah. Everything that, you see, you have to think also that everything that is true for one would be true for the other, because they are the same. They are completely the same. They are not merely the same. They are totally, truly, naturally, objectively the same. So whatever are the characteristics of one necessarily would be the characteristics of the other. If the constituents are more than one, then the self will be more than one. Okay. So the other problem, if you say that you see the self is the aggregate, then you would have a problem in terms of appropriation. You wouldn't be able to distinguish. We have seen this last time. We wouldn't be able to distinguish between the appropriator and what is appropriated, the possessor and what is possessed. Clearly, there is the concept of an I, which is the possessor of the aggregate. There is an I that appropriates the aggregate. Okay, he possesses the aggregate. So if you said that the person, you see, is the same as the aggregate, you wouldn't be able to make that distinction. You wouldn't be able to posit a possessor, and you wouldn't be able to posit something which is possessed. Impossible. As Nagarjuna says, the fire would become the fuel. In an action, when you have an action, you have an agent, you have an object, and you have an action. Okay, the action is what is performed by the agent, and the support of the action is the object. It's on the basis of the object. The object supports the action of the agent. So the fire is the agent. Burning is the action performed by the fire, and it is performed on what? On the fuel, on the wood. See, so you have like three distinct things, at least 2 or 3 distinct things into the sphere. This is what we call the sphere of activity. You have an agent, you have an action, you have an object. The agent, fire, action, burning, object, wood. Okay, so it is the same with the self. You have the self, the agent, it possesses, this is the action, and the object is the 5 aggregates. The self possesses the 5 aggregates. I have a body, I have a mind, this is my arm, etc. Okay, so if you say that the person is the same as the aggregate, you will lose this logical sphere of activities. You wouldn't be able to posit a possessor and a possessed. So the parts, you see, the constituent, the aggregate, would be both the possessor and the possessed. So the fire would become also the fuel, or the wood would also become the fire. You see, there is a big problem in saying this. It's a huge, colossal problem. You have to come to understanding around this. So I'm looking for a node, a particular node that I have. Let me see if I find it. Okay. So this, you see, this appropriation, you have to work on the appropriation because it is a very, according to me, it is the clearest contradiction in asserting that the person is the same as the aggregate. Okay, so this concept with conflict directly with the agent and the object. So as we have said, you see, so the person is always in relation with the psychophysical constituent and the body and mind. Okay, and you have seen that in daily life we consider the person being the appropriator. Okay, the possessor. I possess a mind. My mind is not clear.
I'm sorry, Venerable. Could you please pause because we couldn't hear Diana for maybe half a minute? Just a second.
Okay. So what should I do? Should I pause or should I go on? I can go on?
Just a pause. Yes, just she need to translate what you just said.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So if we examine, you see, if we examine our natural sense of self and its relation with the aggregate, we find that there is this notion of agency. Okay, and this play a crucial role in our sense of conceiving the I. So when I say, for example, I am looking at the window. Okay, I am looking at the window. We have a sense that there is an I, a person, which is engaged into the action. Okay, that's how it comes. But if we do a close examination on this idea of action, and then we will see that we are making a very simple statement, and inside of this simple statement, there is an intimate connection between the self and the aggregate. Okay, this is very so. So when you say I am seeing at the window, what do we have exactly? What do we find? We find that there is a sense power. There is an I with a sense power. This is a dominant condition. There is a visual perception. Okay, the visual perception is the type of consciousness that arises in dependence on this sense powers, the eye organ, and a particular object, which is the shape or color. When all of these conditions come together, you see the mind is generated into the entity of sense consciousness. In this condition, a visual consciousness is produced. Okay, so so this best describe, according to Tsongkhapa, this process of appropriation. So in other words, even the simple act of seeing something, the self, in this way, the self appropriates the psychophysical aggregate. It appropriates the body and mind, and the sense, in particular, the sensory faculty, in order to make that cognitive event an act of the person. That mere cognitive event, you see, which arises due to causes and condition, it is made by the mind into an act of the person. Because on the basis of those causes and conditions, gathering and producing an instance of sense consciousness, the concept of I, on the top of it, the concept of I arises, and you think, you see, that the mind think, actually it's the mind who thinks, I, you see, I'm seeing by the window. I'm seeing by the window. But if you, and this I, which is seeing by the window, it's just an idea that arise in dependence on the production of the sense consciousness. You see, if you look for that I, you will not be able to find it. You will only find the sense consciousness, the visual consciousness, which is produced in dependence on causes and condition. So the self is, and somehow you see the self is identified with the aggregate in this process. This is a mental process, and the self is identified with this aggregate. So if you analyze, if you leave it like this, you see, you will lose automatically the ability to distinguish between the action, the agent, and the object. Okay, because if you say, you see, that the self is the aggregate, then you wouldn't be able to say, for example, that I have a mind. See, you wouldn't be able to say that, or I see by the window. You wouldn't be able to say that. So it is the eye organ, the eye consciousness, and the object, in particular the eye organ, the eye consciousness. It's actually what it makes possible to see the particular object. And the eye, the result of this eye consciousness is made into an individual looker somehow, okay, which is the agent. But it is made up. This is something which is made up. If you look for this eye, if you search for this eye which experiences the eye consciousness, you wouldn't be able to find it because it is merely labeled on the basis of the eye consciousness. I don't know if it makes sense what I just said, but you have to think about it. Okay, think about it. So we are still in the third point. So you see, if the other fallacy, by asserting that the self and the aggregate are the same, you would come to have the problem that in the same way that the self, that the aggregate are produced and destroyed, then the self will be produced and destroyed. So conventionally, there is no problem, but here, remember that you are inside of the sphere of true existence. So you are trying to find a truly existent self, which is findable among truly existent aggregates. And truly existent phenomena, they must have truly existent production and truly existent disintegration. So in the sphere of true existence, you have difficulty, you see, to posit a continuity. It's difficult for a continuity to exist. It is actually, when I say difficult, I mean it's impossible for a continuity of instant to exist into the sphere of true existence, because who say true existence mean an existence established by way of its own character. So we'll have instant of self, instant of body and instant of mind, which are produced by way of their own nature, by way of their own character. See, of course, the body is impermanent. Of course, the mind is impermanent, but they are not every instant that make it the continuity of body and mind. They are not produced by way of their own character. You see, if something is produced by way of its own character, it cannot be the cause for another instance, and it also cannot be the result of causes and condition, i.e. a previous instant, because it is established by way of its own character. If you exist by way of your own character, if you exist by way of your own power, you cannot be produced by previous causes and condition. And also you cannot function as the cause for another phenomena. So in a normal continuity, if we take the matter, the continuum of substance, every instant, you see, arise as the result of the disintegration of the previous instant. And the previous instant is the substantial cause for the next instant, in the same way that the sprout arises after the complete disintegration of the seed. See? The seed is completely destroyed and the sprout arises. The seed and the sprout, they are in a cause and effect relation, and they are never simultaneous. Okay, for the sprout to arise, there must be the complete disintegration of the seed. So for an instant, for a successive instant to arise, the precedent instant, which is the substantial cause, must have completely destroyed, must be completely destroyed. But if a particular instant exists by way of its own character, it cannot be caused by the previous instant. Okay, so if the body, all of this to say that if the body and mind are existent by way of their own character, and the self also exists by way of their own character, then what does that mean? It means that you wouldn't be able to, the self of today and the self of yesterday, they would be two completely different persons. They wouldn't be able to exist in the same continuum, because there would be instant of self that are produced by way of their own character. So this is a bit difficult. I agree with you. It requires a little bit investigation and understanding of what are the implications of objective existence. All of these are direct some effects or direct consequences of a type of existence which is findable upon analysis, an objective mode of existence or a truly existent mode of existence. Okay? So in terms of the production, then you will end up with instants of self that are established by way of their own character. Why? Because you have the 5 aggregate which are established by way of their own character. And since the self is the same as the aggregate, then it will have the same characteristics. And therefore, what you've done today or what you've done 5 minutes ago, you wouldn't be able to remember it, because the self of now and the self of 5 minutes ago, they wouldn't be able to be established in a relation of cause and effect. They wouldn't be able to exist, to coexist in the same continuum, because every instant of self is produced by its own character. This is a bit difficult, I agree. You have to chew it, okay? You have to chew it. So you see, so we have presented 4 consequences, 4 absurd consequences, 4 absurd consequences for the self being the same as this basis of imputation. So now we move to the second one. The second position is to refute that the self is different from its basis of imputation. And by different, we mean inherently different, truly different, naturally different, unrelated. That's what it means. If you say, here we are not, of course, the self and the aggregate are not truly different. They are not truly same, and they are not truly different. Why? Because the self is nominally existent. And if it is nominally existent, there is no problem, but it is not what we are looking for. Because here, what we are looking for is a type of self. It is a type of self that is conceived by ignorance as being truly existent. And therefore, we have to apply all of these absurd consequences to refute the possible existence of that self conceived by ignorance. This is what we are doing now, okay? Okay, so if the self is truly different from the aggregate, okay, is different from the aggregate, then is established by way of its own character, okay, and it is different from the aggregate, then this time the self wouldn't have the attribute of the aggregate. What does that mean? It means that if the self, it is something which is totally different from the aggregate, that I cannot say, for example, when my I consciousness is produced in the entity of a blue color, I wouldn't be able to say I'm seeing the blue color, because I, the self, is a different entity from the aggregate. Or I won't be able to say I'm happy if the happy feeling arises in the mind. Or I wouldn't be able to say I am sick if I have a stomach problem. Why? Because the self and the aggregate are different. Okay? So, yes. What can I say? Let's see. I wanted you to complicated details. Another problem is if the self is established by way of its own character as a different entity from the aggregate, then the self would be a permanent phenomena. Because if you are truly existent, okay, a truly existent self would have to be a permanent phenomena, okay? And being a permanent phenomena, you wouldn't be able to perform the function of the self, because the self changes. The self is young and becomes old, okay? And sometimes he's happy, sometimes he's not happy, sometimes he's in good health, sometimes he's not in good health. So clearly the self is impermanent. But if the self is truly existent and is different from the aggregate, then it will have no connection with the aggregate. It will be an unproduced phenomena. You see, it would be unproduced phenomena, and therefore it wouldn't be able to perform the function of a self. You will lose the observed object of the view of the transitory collection. You will lose it. You will lose it. You will have nothing to observe, your mind or even your ignorance. We will have nothing to observe to make it a self, or to reify as a self. Okay, let's move on. So see, if the self is something different from the aggregate, then if you, in the same way that you can recognize, you see what are the attributes, what are the characteristics of the body, for example. The characteristics of the body, they are like, they have like a color, shape, a mass, odor, sounds. All of these are the attribute of the form aggregate. So you can identify them clearly, and having identified them clearly, you can even, you see, cancel them. If you identify something, you can cancel it. So in the same way, you are able to identify what are the attributes of the mind, which is the clear knower, able to cognize. So if the self is something different from the aggregate, then by mentally, you see, eliminating from the perception, from your field of perception, the form aggregate, you see, and the mind, the body and the mind, then something should be apprehendable as a self. Something should stand up in space as being the self. Clearly, there is nothing can be identified as such phenomena. Therefore, the self is not inherently different from the aggregate. You see, the self is not established by way of his own nature as a different phenomena from the self, from the aggregate, from its constituents. So before, we have seen that the self is not established by way of its own nature as identical with the five aggregates. And now we just have discovered, you see, that the self is not established by way of its own nature as something different from the five aggregates. And there could be enough for you to realize emptiness, the selflessness. That could be enough there, okay? But maybe because we have a strong, very strong and deep, you see, how can I say, familiarity with the conception of self, we might need to go on with the other argumentation, which are branches of those two that we have just covered. Okay? So let's move on. Then you have the fifth position is the essential, realizing that the self is not dependent on its basis of imputation. You see, so here we are trying to analyze or to this relationship. The person is not inherently dependent on the aggregate. You see, the person is not inherently dependent on the aggregate, which are its basis of imputation. And here, the simile which is used is the self and the aggregate appear to be like a lion in a forest, you see, or like a man in a tent. See, the relationship between the self and the aggregate are like a lion in a forest or a man in a tent. So clearly, the aggregate are more extensive. In this simile, the aggregate as something more extensive, and the self appear have somewhere within them. Not one of them, but somewhere within them. Okay, and this is a branch of the fourth one, where the self and the aggregate are considered to be different. Okay, so this has already been refuted. So you see, here in the fifth position, it is a branch. Somewhere we have this concept, but nevertheless, this concept is already eliminated by the fourth essential, because this is a type of relation where the self and the aggregate are somehow different. Okay, and the sixth essential is also to realize that the phenomena imputed is not the support upon which its basis of imputation are dependent. And here the aggregates are dependent on the person. Before it was the person, the person were dependent on the aggregate, where it is found inside of them or among them, you see, but nevertheless being different. And here it is the opposite, it is the aggregate that are dependent on the person. So the conception of the person and the aggregate in this case are like the forest and the snow. So, the aggregate are the forest, and the person is the snow pervading the forest. You see, that's the concept here. It's surrounding them. It is surrounding them. So to put in another way, the self is like a bowl, and the aggregate are like the yogurt. It's contained. See. So here also we might have this concept. So it's good to analyze this relationship. Okay, and this is again, it is a branch of the fourth essential. Okay, where the aggregate and the person are considered as different. It is also refuted by this one. The seventh one. Okay, the seventh one is the essential, realizing that the person, the phenomena imputed, is not does not possess its basis of imputation. So this is very interesting, because we have this concept every day. Every day we talk about this I and the aggregate in terms of possessed and possessor, all the time. Okay. Even if it's not expressed, we have this thought, you know, even when we start in the morning, when we wake up, you know, and we go in front of the mirror, and you say, for example, that I look ugly this morning, for example, you see, I have a like what do you say, this terrible face. I have a terrible face this morning, you see. Then that's the concept, you see, of the I, and which is the possessor. And the face, it is the form aggregate, it is what is possessed. So now you have to analyze this relationship of being possessed and being a possessor, and you have two possibility of possessing something. Two possibility. There's one is in terms of same entity, and the other is in terms of different entity. So you can possess something as being a same entity, or you can possess something as being a different entity. So if there's two phenomena, you see, two phenomena that are somehow coexistent, if you have two simultaneous phenomena and they are different, yeah, how can I put this? If you have two simultaneous phenomena, then they must be different. Clearly, two simultaneous phenomena, they must be different. So in the same, in this notion, the first notion of possession is like someone possessing, for example, a dog. Right? I possess a dog. I have two different phenomena, and they exist simultaneously. Therefore, they are unrelated. So if you cannot possess your aggregate in this way, you see, in being simultaneous and in being simultaneous and different, because those would be two unrelated phenomena, and this is already has been refuted by the fourth position. Okay, and then the other way to possess something is the possession of same entity. Possession of same entity. Like, for example, like you possess your face, like you possess your head. And here, that relation of possession of same entity, if it is a possession of same entity which is established by its own characteristics, then the possessor and the possessed would become the same. And this has already been refuted by the first position. So those are the two notions of possession which are linked to true establishment, one being a possession of same entity and one being a possession of different entity. Okay, so in the case of different entity, then you have two simultaneous phenomena which are unrelated. Therefore, this is refuted by the fourth position. And in the second type of possession, which is the possession of same entity, okay, and this is refuted by the first position, that the third position, sorry, where the self is not the same, inherently the same as the aggregate. Okay, so you have to chew on this. Those only make sense after a long time. Okay. You have to think about it, you have to think about it, you have to think about it. You see, because the mind, it is so obscured and it is so, has so much familiarity with this approach, this innate, unanalytical approach that for him, it makes it makes perfect sense. You see, we are so wrong about something and we are so accustomed to being wrong that it makes perfect sense. So this is why this is difficult, because thinking about emptiness, you see, it's like trying to understand that you're wrong about something where you thought you couldn't be wrong about. So it is very difficult to crack, just to start to crack this. Let's see, the egg of ignorance. It's difficult to crack. Okay, and then we reach to the point where we have to investigate the essential, presenting that the imputed phenomena, the self, is not the mere collection at its basis of imputation. Okay, so here you have three different approaches. You can of course think about the appropriator and the appropriated. You see, the collection. It is in the same way that you possess one body and one mind, you also possess the collection of the body and mind. So if you say that the self is the same as the collection, then you end up with the same problem of saying that the self, see, is the self possess his body or the self-possessive mind, because if they are the collection, then they cannot be possessed because they become they cannot be the possessor because they are that which is possessed. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, and then the second, what you can think also is about. Let me think about my notes. Yeah. Okay. So in this. In this Prasangika system, the basis of imputation, it cannot be the imputed object. So this is something that to start to understand when you have worked, you see, from the end, when you have started to understand what the meaning of being imputed, okay, then this allows you to understand what is truly existent, and this allows you also to understand the impossibility of the self to be the same as the collection of the aggregate, because the collection of the aggregate are the basis of imputation of the self, and the self, it is the imputed phenomena. Okay, it is what is applied to the basis. Therefore, it cannot be the basis. Okay, so you have to think about this I consciousness apprehending blue, and the I consciousness as apprehending blue, you see, cannot be the self. That's not the self. The I consciousness apprehending blue cannot be the self. It is the basis on which the self is applied. Anyway, you have to think about it. So in terms of the body and mind, the collection of body and mind, it is the collection of many instants. You see, in a finger snap, you have, like, if you talk about the Sotantrika point of view, you have 65 instants of mind and 65 instants of matter. You see, so it is difficult to posit the self as being, you see, either one of those or the collectivity of those, because those are only the parts. We have done this analysis before of the part and the constituent. Okay, so if something is the part of something, it cannot be the whole, the collection. Okay, the self, it is a name given to, it is applied on the collection of the aggregate. Okay, so the collection of the aggregates are just the parts. It is the part. Individually, they are parts. Put together, they are still the part. They are the collection of the parts. Okay, you have the individual part and you have the collection of the part. They are still parts. They do not become a self just because you put them together. Okay, the self, it is a name which is applied to the collection. When there is the collection, the idea of self arises in the same way that when there is the collection, you see, of all the part of the cart, of the chariot put together, you see, you put the part together, and at some point there is an appearance to the mind. You see, there is the part which are put together, and at a particular point there is an appearance to the mind of the chariot. It appears to the mind in dependence on the part. So it is born, you see, the chariot, it is born in your mind. It is born in your mind, and it is applied to the basis. Okay, so in the same way, they have the collection of the parts, and then the image, the appearance of self arises to the mind in dependence on the parts, in dependence on the constituent. In the same way that you put the parts together, you see, you put the 1, 2, 3, 4, and at some point the concept of chart or the concept of chariot appears to the mind. In the same way, you observe the aggregate, and the concept of I arises to the mind in dependence on this object of observation, in dependence of observing the constituent. The appearance of the I arises in the mind, and it is applied to the basis. See, the problem is what happened next. The concept is applied to the basis, and after it appeared completely mixed with the basis, and there is confusion because you are unable anymore to distinguish, to recognize that originally the phenomena is born into your mind. We are unable to distinguish, and we are caught up into the appearance where the phenomena appear to exist objectively. So that's the problem. So in terms of the self, the form aggregate is not the self. A particular instant of the form aggregate is not into this continuity, is to this continuum of matter, you see. There is not a particular illustration of matter down to the atoms, if you like, which is the self, the person. Use your name. In the same way, in terms of the mind, you see, you have the various perceiver that arise due to causes and condition. You have like this, the five consciousness, the five sense consciousness, and you have the mental consciousness, and they are produced in dependence on causes and condition. And in a finger snap, you see, you have 65 instant of each perceivers. There is not an instant which is the I there. There is not an instant which is the person. Unfindable. So individually or in terms of collection, that's not the person. Individually, they are not the person. Put together, they are not the person. They are just the constituent. So you talk about the constituent individually, or you talk about the constituent collectively. They still remain the constituent. Okay, you have to work with this. To work with that. So also, if you think, you see, if you think that the collection is the person, then this is also not possible. Why? Because the collection, it is not substantially existent. There is no truly existent collection which is different from the parts. The collections or the self or the child, it is the same. You see, there is no truly existent collection. If there is a truly existent collection, then the collection is either one with the part or different from the parts. It is the same problem. It is exactly the same problem. The substantially existent collection, if it is a substantially existent collection, that it is either one with this part or different from this part. If the collection is one with this part, and you have the same number of collection that you have parts, and also the collection is the appropriator, therefore it doesn't work anymore. And it is the same with the collection being different from the parts. If the collection is different from the part, then you eliminate the part, you will find the collection. Doesn't work, you see. So this is because we are very confused between the part and the whole. Very confused. The whole for us appear to be a phenomena which is substantially distinct, in the same way that the person appear to be substantially distinct. You have to work on all of this. So you see, when you start to investigate, you see, when you start to investigate the mode in which we innately, non-analytically relate with the world, it is completely mistaken, completely mistaken. And this is why we have so much problem in our life. This is why we are so neurotic all day, you see, because we are completely mistaken with respect to how to or things with the status of existence of phenomena of the person and the mind. So as long as we remain in this non-analytical, you see, mode of relating to phenomena, we cannot pinpoint our mistake and we cannot correct it. So that is a big problem. And the last one, of course, but not the least, is to reflect that you see, the imputed phenomena is not the shape of its basis of imputation, i.e. that the person is not the shape of the body. So this might be, you see, because the first thing we see when we see someone, the first thing that we see, and when someone enters the room, for example, we see its form aggregate, and the shape of his body, and based on that, there is the reification of this being truly existent. And then after the person say, "Oh, I'm George," and after we conceive the person to be truly existent, George. But so it's possible to have this misconception that the person, you see, is just somehow the shape of is linked to the existence of the shape of the aggregate. Anyway, to refute that, you have to think that the person is not only a form aggregate, it also has a mind. So if the person is only the shape of the aggregate, then that shape would have to be able also to know, would have to be able to do many operations of the mind to be a self. The self is not only a form aggregate, is also the self has also a mind. So the person cannot be only the shape of the form of the shape of the aggregate, the shape of the form aggregate, because the shape is merely physical. Okay. So at the end, you see, at the end of this analysis, you end up with unfindability of what before clearly appears to the mind. You have rejected one by one the different possibility of inherent existence. You have looked into all the criteria. Those seven positions are just criteria of true existence. You just applying criteria. So if it does not exist in 7 ways, then the self cannot be truly existent. The self cannot exist by its own character. The self cannot be established by its own nature. So you end up, you see, with the analytical unfindability of the self, and this analytical unfindability of the self is the meaning of the selflessness of person. And you have to familiarize your mind with this as much as possible. You have to abide in this unfindability of the self as much as possible. And if you have a correct understanding, this can be taken, you see, an observer object to develop concentration, like for example, Shine. This can be the observer object. But first, you must have, you see, gone through the analysis to be able to produce the correct understanding of the unfindability. And when you contemplate this unfindability, you are actually meditating on emptiness. All the rest is not meditation on emptiness. All the rest is just analysis, is ultimate type of analysis. And their function is to produce or generate this unfindability. And the unfindability, I repeat, is the meaning of selflessness. So there you meditate on emptiness, before not. So there is a non-finding, you see, there is a non-finding of the person in the 7 ways, and this is the meaning of the non-true existence of the person. So even as a conventional truth, the person is not findable in the 7 ways. So even the conventionally existent person, you see, is not findable in the 7 ways. So the person is not findable ultimately, but also the conventionally existent person is not findable in the 7 ways. Because if you look for the person, the conventionally existent person in the 7 ways, it is also an ultimate type of analysis. So the person, you see, that's the subtlety of the Prasangika system, is to be able to posit existence without the findability, without analytical findability. And this, only the Prasangika are able to do that. So you see, the phenomena exist, but when you look for, you cannot find it. It's almost laughable. See, it is almost laughable. It exists, but when you look for it, you cannot find it. That's unbelievable. So this is why all the other schools, you see, they have to posit something. They have to posit an existence by its own characteristics. They are conventionally, you see, conventionally you can find something. But in terms of the Prasangika, even conventionally, when you look for, you cannot find. So, however, you see, so there is no analysis to find the imputed object. So there is no analysis that find the imputed object. The person is nevertheless, you see, undeniably, the person is validly established and is able to perform a function. The person which is nominally existent is validly established and is able to perform a function. We have not negated the existence of the person. We have negated the existence of the person, which is findable upon analysis. And this is equated to a person which is established by way of its own nature. So because the person is only conventionally existent, you see, in the same way that the 2,000 rubles are imputed on the piece of paper, or the snake is imputed on the rope, the person, you see, is conventionally existent, is merely imputed. It is a mere appearance, okay? Independence that arise, independence on the basis of imputation, which are the 5 aggregates. And that, you see, that concept that arise to the mind, independence on the 5 aggregates, this is the conventionally existent person, and this is the person that accomplish action and that experience result, and it works. It works. See? Only when you're not satisfied with conventional existence, you end up, you see, with problems. So the self does nominally exist, and you can understand only how the self nominally exists only after having negated his true existence. After having understood how the person does not exist, then you can understand, you see, that the person is just a concept that arises to the mind, is merely imputed by the mind, independence on the basis of imputation. So after analysis, you see, so when the consciousness is seeking I, when the consciousness seeking I is generated, then it is generated based on the 5 aggregates. Okay? And therefore the person, it is designated independence on the 5 aggregates. The existence of the person is directly linked to the observation of the 5 aggregates, but the person is not findable inside of the 5 aggregates. So after analysis, only an illusory-like nature remains, you see, individually for things. You just has a illusory-like nature. It is a mere appearance to the mind. That's conventional existence. That's how things exist. So only, you see, after analysis and after having established the subtle dependent arising, it only there is only the illusory object that remains. Okay. So after the negation, yeah, I cannot read myself. What did I write here? Oh yeah, flawless. Okay. So after negation, you see, you are left with the flawless presentation of object and agent as dependent arising as cause and condition, which are like, you see, like the creator of the magical show. Okay? So it appears, why do you say it's like the creator of a magical show? Because it appears as truly existence, but actually it is not truly existence. That's the illusion. So in the Madhyamika view, so what is the Madhyamika view? It is the composite. You see, it is composed of, from one side, there is a non-affirming negation of true existence, and it is associated with the presentation of agent and object, which are like illusion. So if you get those two together, you see, and you see that they are supporting each other and they are not contradictory and that they function perfectly inside of the sphere of cause and effect, you have found the view of the middle way. So we'll go into more details about this next week. Okay, next week we'll do more into the dependent arising and how emptiness actually does not refute the cause and effect, you see, and the cause and effect of things. Okay, anyway, we'll see. I hope it was useful. It is difficult. There is a lot of things to think about, and the time is not much. Okay, so normally in monastery you study this subject for 4 years. So this is a 5 session is a bit short. Okay, but it gives you an idea. As I said at the beginning, you see, if by listening all of those things, you just get more interested, and you want to study more, then I have accomplished my purpose. Okay, so thank you very much. Maybe we don't have time for question. Do we have time for question? Yes, no? No, we don't have a question. So thank you very much. Sorry for the time. Thank you for the patience, everybody, in particular for the translator. And spokojnej noci, okay? Spasiba, and see you on. Okay. So we do the dedication.
Venerable, I'm sorry. It seems that we cannot do screen sharing right now. Maybe we just recite.
Sure.
Without sharing.
Sure. Okay.
Силу этой добродетели да достигну я быстро состояния гуру Будды и приведу всех без исключения существ-скитальцев к этому просветленному состоянию. Пусть драгоценная высшая бодхичитта, та, что не породилась, да породится, а та, что породилась, да не ослабеет, но возрастает все больше и больше.
Спасибо. See you next time.
Thank you very much.